Hey guys, Randy Potato here with a hero guide for the Grave Robber. We'll discuss their unique skills, hero pads, and trinkets, and the different builds you can use with this character, and in what types of parties and scenarios they will thrive. The Grave Robber is a very mobile, high crit potential damage dealer. Her base skills are some of the weakest in the game, but with the right path, build, and trinkets, she can be a powerhouse DPS. Let's start with a quick path overview. Deadeye buffs her range damage by 25%, debuffs her melee by the same amount, and also adds 5% crit on ranged. Her move resist is gutted 33%, removing it entirely. Nightsworn loses 20% max HP, turning an already fragile hero into a glass cannon. In exchange, she does an additional 50% damage while stealthed, and an additional 25% when using either Lunge or Pirouette. Venomdrop debuffs your range damage by 25%, drops your speed by 3, while slightly increasing blight damage dealt while stealthed, adds a blight component to flashing daggers, and increases blight application on movement skills. Let's move to skills. Pick to the Face is your standard melee attack, usable from front 3 to front 2 ranks. It does base 4 to 7 damage, upgrading only the top end to 4 to 10. It's notable in that it ignores block and gains 50% crit when comboed, something that is common on Grave Robber. While it's a fine attack and quite strong with combo, it lacks range and does not synergize with any of Grave Robber's paths. I generally only equip it if I need an emergency rank 1 attack, or if I know I'm facing a lot of block tokens, such as in the Tangle. Still, even with these conditions, I'd just rather have basically any of her other attacks. Thrown Dagger is a ranged attack usable from back 3 to back 3 ranks, doing 3 to 5 damage, upgrading only the top end to 3 to 7, with extremely high base crit, 15%, upgrading to 30%. It has the same plus 50% crit on combo. In addition, the skill ignores both dodge and guard when Grave Robber is stealthed. This is an extremely weak attack, even with a crit, but it's pretty versatile with its range and utility. The crit is so high that it actually becomes a relatively reliable damage skill with a stress relief component. It is further aided by Deadeye, but nerfed to the ground on Venomdrop. Flashing Daggers is a useless AoE ranged attack that does 2 to 3 damage, upgrading to 3 to 5. Usable from the back 3 against ranks 2 to 3. Venomdrop adds an okay blight to this attack, making it somewhat equipable, although it's questionable whether Venomdrop is usable at all. Outside of Venomdrop, this is in the never equip category. Even with edge use cases and checking AoE Death's Door, I'd still rather equip a real skill in pretty much every fight. Poison Darts is a ranged Grave Robber staple, doing 2 to 4 damage, upgrading to 2 to 5, 2 blight, upgrading to 4, and the standard plus 50% crit on combo. It's usable from the back 3 rows to any enemy rank. The range and utility of the skill is incredible. It benefits from Deadeye mostly because of the crit, as the damage isn't high enough to be relevant. It has no effect from Nightsworn, and can potentially benefit from Venomdrop by adding blight while stealthed. I put this skill on the bar of every Grave Robber because it's the only skill that hits all 4 ranks, does enough damage to check Death's Door even through block, and also applies a blight. The only major downsides are it doesn't scale much after upgrade, and blight is weak in 2 regions. Absinthe is her self-heal / buff, usable from any rank. It's fairly restrictive in its healing component, healing 30% of max HP only if you're under 25% HP, which is basically death for a fragile hero like Grave Robber. However, it obviously gets you off Death's Door, which is the most important aspect of the heal. In addition, Absinthe provides 3 dodge tokens and a speed token, upgrading to dodge plus on upgrade, giving you incredible sustain. The skill does have a use limit of 3, but that's generally more than enough for most fights. It's not affected by any paths, except doing slightly less raw healing with Nightsworn's lower max HP. Dead of Night is another heal and corpse clear ability usable from any rank. It requires a target enemy corpse, and you remove that corpse and heal 33% max HP and gain 2 stealth tokens. On upgrade, it heals 50% max HP and also heals 1 stress. In every fight except those that don't leave corpses, like boss battles, this is an incredible skill. Corpse Clear is always relevant, the healing has no HP restrictions, so you can use this to top yourself off, and you get 2 stealth tokens to play with. Incredible sustain with useful secondary effects. This is always on my bar in any fight that is relevant. It's unlocked at Grave Robber's first shrine. Glint In The Dark is a unique low damage ranged attack usable from front 3 to front 3 ranks. It does 3 to 5 damage, upgrading to 4 to 6, and ignores and removes stealth from enemies. It also ignores 20% death blow resist. On upgrade, this skill can bypass Death's Door entirely if you are stealth, the only current skill in the game that does so. As a ranged attack, it is affected by Deadeye and Venomdrop, but in practice this doesn't matter since the damage component on the skill is mostly irrelevant. This is an extremely niche skill with extremely high upside. The main issue is getting yourself stealth in fights that matter while also staying in the front 3 ranks. This is mostly a boss killing move, which means no Dead of Night to self-stealth, and if you use Shadow Fade it must be from rank 1 so you'll settle in rank 3. Alternatively, you could equip one of the stealth trinkets, but these are mostly unreliable. Bottom line, this is an always equip against bosses with Death's Door if you can make it work, and it is worth it to try to make it work, and never goes on your bar outside of these narrow use cases. It's unlocked at Grave Robber's final hero shrine. Lunge is a high crit rate melee movement attack, usable from the back 2 ranks to the front 3 ranks. This attack moves you forward 2 ranks, does 4 to 8 damage, upgrading to 4 to 11, and has 20% base crit, upgrading to 30%. It ignores dodge while stealthed, and ignores dodge and block while stealthed on upgrade. The skill is nerfed with Deadeye and buffed with Nightsworn, especially if you can pull off the Shadow Fade Lunge combo. This skill, like most of our others, has a broad damage range which is meant to accommodate her high crit rate. This is usable on all her paths, but mostly relevant on Nightsworn. When building a Lunge Grave Robber, you need flexible team comp that is okay with movement, although my favorite build in a Lunge comp is to acquire the Immobilized Trophy from the General, so you can sit back and spam this attack. It's unlocked at Grave Robber's 3rd hero shrine. Pirouette is a front rank to front rank AoE ranged movement ability that does 4 to 7 damage, 6 to 8 on upgrade, moves the Grave Robber back 2, gives them dodge, dodge plus on upgrade, and daze. It has a 2-turn cooldown. Another movement skill, this one is ranged and thus benefits from both Deadeye and Nightsworn, while being nerfed by Venomdrop. This is an absolute must-have for Nightsworn and generally works best as an opening nuke. I find it middling on other builds like Deadeye, mostly useful to keep on your bar as shuffle protection, but can be good depending on whether you build your comp around movement and shuffle. This is unlocked at Grave Robber's final shrine. Repartee is a Grave Robber tank ability, usable from any rank as long as you are stealthed. It removes stealth, and adds 2 taunt tokens and 3 dodge tokens, upgrading to 3 dodge plus tokens when mastered. This is an extremely niche, high-risk ability, given her HP pool and dodge being much less consistent than block. It also takes some effort to get into play, given the stealth requirement, and is thus not a reliable tank skill like the traditional tanks. It's not affected by any paths directly, but is nerfed by Nightsworn, further nuking your HP pool, and Venomdrop making it very slow to put into play. It's unlocked at Grave Robber's 2nd shrine. Finally, we have Shadow Fade, another setup ability, usable from the front 2 ranks. It moves the Grave Robber back, gives her 2 stealth tokens, plus a speed token on upgrade. The most consistent way to generate stealth tokens, especially against bosses where corpses generally don't exist. There are a ton of payoffs for this move, but it is also extremely slow and in most comps a waste of time. Most effective in setting up a massive lunge attack on Nightsworn. It's also slightly buffed by Venomdrop, which adds a small blight to attacks when stealthed. Not really a move I put on my bar for most fights. It's usable if you have a mobile team with payoffs for a setup, such as buff skill items and Vaughn token application. It's unlocked at Grave Robber's 4th shrine. Now, onto Grave Robber's unique trinkets. First we have Foreclosure Notice, an awful trinket that I suppose is meant to buff an equally awful hero path, Venomdrop. This gives you a 33% chance of applying combo on hit if you're in rank 4, a 33% chance of self-stealthing when you use flashing daggers, and when not stealthed you get a minus 75% healing you receive to debuff. The purpose of the trinket, I suppose, is to make spamming flashing daggers more attractive when for some reason you decide to play Venomdrop. The problem is the buff to being stealthed on flashing daggers is only 2 blight, with entirely inflexible enemy targets. The combo being only a slim chance makes that aspect a nice extra, not a reason to equip. Outside of Venomdrop, this is literally never equipable, because flashing daggers is literally never equipable. His rings are mostly a Deadeye Grave Robber trinket, giving you an additional 2 blight on ranged crit attacks, something Deadeye boosts, as well as a 33% more blight damage on poison darts, which for some reason rounds up to 6 on mastered poison darts, making it in any rank Noxious Blast pretty strong. You take 75% more damage in rank 1, which is a negligible debuff considering you will never willingly be in rank 1 and have plenty of maneuvers to escape that rank. This could also be an okay trinket for Venomdrop and Nightsworn, but generally you're doing other stuff with those builds. The only real problem here is none of her paths come with blight application, so unlike Alchemist Plague Doctor, many enemies will shrug off your blight attacks with their high resists, and to get blight application you'll have to go to the Fodder, where Grave Robber is incredibly weak with her blight build. Still, for the most part, you're very happy to see this trinket appear. Stiff Drink is sort of an odd grave robber trinket that doesn't really have a home, although I find it pretty strong if for some reason you're running a Wanderer grave robber with all your skills unlocked. It has an 80% chance to convert your stealth tokens to crit tokens, and the same chance to turn your speed to daze. It also adds 50% damage to Pick to the Face for some reason. This interacts weirdly and often poorly with every path. Deadeye debuffs melee attacks, negating the Pick to the Face value. Nightsworn benefits from stealth tokens, so to have them yoinked is odd. And Venomdrop also gets small benefits from stealth. As said before, the strongest use for this trinket I found is Wanderer, getting your stealth tokens through Dead of Night, and getting a super juiced Pick to the Face crit. Otherwise, for the most part, you don't want to convert your stealth to crits, especially since Grave Robber's whole thing is already a higher than average crit chance. Also, this dazes you on Shadow Fade, the other way to gain stealth, making it even weaker. Overall, equipable early game to slice through the simple road and node fights, but most builds you just want something with better synergy. Now, on to deeper discussion of Grave Robber's 3 paths and the various builds you can do with them. Deadeye is the ranged specialist and probably the safest and easiest path for Grave Robber. Thrown Dagger and Poison Darts are staples of Deadeye and basically mandatory. Pick, Flashing Daggers, Lunge, Shadow Fade, and Repartee can all be thrown directly in the trash for this path. Since this build tosses so many skills, you can usually comfortably equip both Absinthe and Dead of Night for maximum recovery potential. Pirouette is a ranged attack, and whether or not you start in the front rank, this is a good equip since Deadeye is so prone to getting shuffled. Glint is a good equip as well, though mostly for bosses. It doesn't do much damage, even with the Deadeye buff, but ignoring DBR and stealth is extremely powerful. In most comps, I'll drop Absinthe for this because Dead of Night enables your stealth. Against bosses without corpses, I'll drop Dead of Night instead. This path is generally Poison Dart spam and thus benefits from his rings and a trip to the photo to pick up other blight trinkets. Kitchen Knives is an incredible boss trinket for Grave Robber. Thrown Dagger doesn't really do damage to build around yourself, even with combo generation, although if you can pick up some damage trinkets, it can be worth considering. The path loves to slot into rank 4, so melds with basically any team comp, although unfortunately it's still probably the weakest rank 4 build. Nightsworn has enough juice to be a primary DPS, although it takes a lot of effort to build around. Lunge and Pirouette are obvious equips in almost every Nightsworn build. Dead of Night is a must-have for self-sustain and self-stealth. Flashing Daggers and Repartee are worthless, like in most builds. Absinthe is very strong, but sometimes you don't have space on your bar with Dead of Night already filling a role. The dodge is pretty useful since Nightsworn is a glass cannon, and is at the least a boss equip. Pick to the Face and Poison Darts are your standard attacks that offer an alternative if for whatever reason you're not using Pirouette or Lunge. Pick to the Face cannot be used from rank 4, and Poison Darts cannot be used from rank 1, so it mostly depends on your starting position which one you take, although I suppose you can take both on some comps. Poison Darts have a better range and better utility with the dot, so I generally go with that. Shadow Fade is an interesting dilemma. Obviously it is best utilized in this path, but it's still an extremely slow ability. If you have a team capable of juicing your Grave Robber with strength tokens and Vuln, using a turn to Shadow into Lunge can actually be worth it against some bosses. But in most cases this is just too slow, awkward, and often inferior damage to just 2 direct attacks. Let's discuss Pirouette usage for a second. In standard road and node fights, an AoE nuke to open combat is an incredible play. For basically every standard combat, I will happily open with this ability. Against bosses, this becomes much weaker since AoE isn't often what you want, and the cooldown is long. In boss combats, this is where you can integrate Shadow Fade into your strategy, although starting in back row and open lunging is good too. You can actually get even more lunges with an entirely mobile team, pairing Grave Robber with Jester, Highwayman, and Man-at-Arms as a tank, although I still recommend a healer in all builds. A Cultist Runaway would be serviceable in this role. My favorite tactic with Nightsworn is to actually ignore Pirouette altogether, collect the Immobilized trophy from the General, and plant Grave Robber in rank 4 to constantly spam Lunge. Since trophies are not a guarantee though, if you're running this build you need to entirely build around it with heroes okay with movement, heroes like Jester and Highwayman as stated before. For trinkets, base damage, crit, and health are all solid options, although these are among the most rare. A high risk, high reward strat is to push for cultist encounters. Silent treatment is tailor-made for this particular path. Wounding Words and Temptation are also fantastic, although they all come with massive risks. But that's what you're getting with this path. Overall, high potential is a DPS, but the difficulty and setup required to make her still bottom end in this role. Venomdrop is garbage. Let's get that out of the way quickly. Flashing Daggers does have solid potential, but is extremely restrictive, only targeting ranks 2 to 3, and is useless against basically every boss and size 2 enemy, which are all the most important fights in the game. When running her, I always run flashing daggers, poison darts because of the incredible range, Dead of Night to take advantage of stealth blight, Absinthe as powerful sustain, and usually pick to the face as shuffle protection. Lunge, thrown dagger, repartee, and pirouette are all useless, and shadow fade is too slow for a very small benefit. For trinkets, don't be fooled by Foreclosure Notice, it's not worth the risk. Then again, neither is Venomdrop altogether. Play similarly to Deadeye build, hit up the photo and pick up blight application, damage, and duration to salvage whatever value you can out of this trash. You either want to be in rank 3 or 4, and that's the only bright spot of this path, that it is somewhat flexible in positions that lack heroes right now. Conclusion, only run this if you're intentionally picking garbage meme teams, but unlike fun memes like Cause of Death Plague Doctor or Backdraft Runaway, this is just boring and bad. Overall, I consider the Grave Robber by far the weakest hero in the game. I struggle to think of a situation where she would be an optimal selection. Basically, if you're bored and looking for a change-up, you can pick up Deadeye and get a mediocre rank 4 hero, or if you're feeling spicy, you can pick up Nightsworn, which can become rather OP if you get a perfect setup, but is mostly just a nuisance to manage. Red Hook, please buff. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I post new videos every day.